Good morning, everyone. I call the April 23rd, 2024 Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. I would appreciate if all would please join in the Pledge of Allegiance and then an invocation by Pastor Michael Douglas from the Advancing Vibrant Communities. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for our representatives on the dais and the sacrifices that they and their families make to represent us, to serve us, and we pray that you would grant them great wisdom in their discussions and their deliberations today as they chart the future, the course of our county. Thank you for them, and we also pray for peace in our neighborhoods and prosperity in our business communities. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pastor. Appreciate that. All right, so we have a couple presentations this morning. The first being this week is Library Week in Stanislaus County, and the presentation will be done by our librarian, Sarah Denton.
Hello. And I'm assisted by Laura Farrell, who's our new PIO. Okay. There we go. Excellent. After that moment of panic, good morning, Chair Graywall, Supervisors, CEOs Hayes, and Council Bose. I am happy to be back here presenting the library's report for fiscal year 2023. As you know, the library falls under the board priority promoting lifelong learning. We build community by engaging all members of the community and offering access to information, knowledge, and the tools for innovation and personal development. So, how are we doing? We look at a number of metrics to get the answer to that question, including usage, customer satisfaction, and some program-specific metrics. First, we're going to look at general statistics. This graph represents the growth in circulation over the last 3 fiscal years. You can see the big jump in circulation of physical items between fiscal years 21 and 22, which continued to increase in fiscal year 2023. Circulation of physical items dropped during COVID and has increased since we've opened up since then. Looking at our digital items, we do see that circulation increased significantly in that sector during COVID, but has held essentially steady since then. Everybody who loves ebooks has found them, and other people are less interested. Library card use is also increasing. Between fiscal year 22 and 23, our total number of registered users only increased by 3%. But during that same period, the number of individuals using their cards increased by 48%. So while we didn't see a huge increase in people who had never had cards before getting them, we did see a fairly significant increase in people using cards that they had not used for some amount of time. And again, we suspect that a lot of that is people coming back to the library after COVID. Program statistics were the most impacted by COVID, and you can see that in 2021, when we were working under strict restrictions, we presented only one public program in person. In-person programming came back in fiscal year 22, and staff presented 748 programs. In fiscal year 2023, that number doubled to 1,475 programs. I'm not great with knowing what big numbers mean, so that actually represents an average of 2 programs every single week at every branch in the county. Big libraries actually do more, smaller libraries do fewer, but that gives you an idea of the scope. Looking at attendees, that one program in 2021 was attended by nearly 300 people. I'm guessing it was an outdoor drop-in program, but I wasn't able to identify it specifically. When programming restarted in fiscal year 2022, we had nearly 19,000 people attend, and in fiscal year 23, program attendance tripled to more than 58,000. That means, on average, 1,124 people attended a library program every single week last year. So those numbers give us an idea of the volume of service that we provide, but is the public satisfied with those services? To answer this question, every September we administer a satisfaction survey across the county. This year, for the first time, we used targeted social media promotion to get the survey in front of county residents who don't follow us or otherwise interact with us. This doubled the number of survey respondents, and most of those new respondents were not regular library users. In general, survey respondents do seem satisfied with what we're doing. 83% report that they're very satisfied or satisfied with the library. There is a drop in overall satisfaction from last year, and based on some preliminary analysis, it looks like much of that drop reflects the responses of the people who do not use our services regularly. Of course, we never like to see the numbers moving in that direction, but at the same time, this is the first time our survey has gotten outside of the library bubble, so this is actually probably a more accurate picture of the larger community's experience with the library. 89% of respondents said that the library added value or significant value to their lives. Again, this is not as high as the ratings we got on a similar question last year, but I do think it's a more accurate representation of the larger community's perception than we may have seen in previous years, just because we were hearing from, this year we were hearing from more than our devoted fan base. So when we say people are satisfied with our services, what does that mean? Every year we do ask how the library has made people's lives better. This year, comments about buildings and spaces sort of filtered to the top. People talked about coming to the library to spend time with their families or to talk to people who aren't in their families. They talked about using the library as a space to decompress or to access the building and its resources as a safety net. And finally, some people just love the vibe at the library. I mentioned we'd also look at program-specific metrics. We're going to focus on early literacy, which is a program priority for the library. We offer a comprehensive suite of developmentally appropriate programs and resources to support parents as their children's first and best teachers. Storytimes and Wiggleworms programs are evidence-based programs that are at the center of our early childhood offerings. Over the course of the year, we do survey parents asking what participating in these programs changes for them. In this last fiscal year, 92% of parents indicated they felt more confident helping their children learn after attending Storytime, and 94% intended to spend more time interacting with their children. These results are meaningful because research shows us that these specific behaviors correlate with improved literacy for children. If Storytime is helping parents feel more confident and is encouraging them to interact with more kids, their kids more, we can assume that that will have a positive impact on early literacy outcomes for those families. From this year's satisfaction, it's clear that these programs create family connections across generations. Parents and grandparents do credit these programs with developing their children's engagement with reading. And it is gratifying to see, based on our data, that that perception is actually validated. So, what's next? Stanislaus County is planning for the future. Currently, we're in the public engagement phase of our strategic planning process, reaching out to members of the community in person and online. It's really important that we hear from the broadest range of residents, whether or not they use the library. So to that end, this QR code will take you to our strategic planning page, where you can access both the survey and a prioritization exercise, or you can just go to our website and you can find the link to that survey there. And if we haven't heard from you yet, we'd really like to, even if you have never set foot in one of our libraries. We are engaged in a whole lot of partnerships, but I want to focus today on the Modesto Children's Museum. You'll recall that in 2022, This board allocated funds to the library to support a partnership with the Children's Museum in support of extending the museum's impact across the county. We've been working on that partnership for some time in the background, and we're starting to reap those benefits. You may have seen press coverage of our collaboration on Eclipse events earlier this month. Our staff have provided story time training for museum staff, and the museum has provided our staff with tours and museum education. We are partnering with the museum on training and orientation events for educators and child care providers across the county. So a lot of places working with SCOE and other school districts in addition to Modesto City Schools. Coming later this year, a limited number of museum passes will be available for free to county residents through the library's Discover and Go program. And finally, this summer, every library in Stanislaus County will host a Mochi Move program created especially for our Summer Reading Challenge. We're engaged in a lot of facility improvements. At Salida, we have a roof repair in process, and we are going to be doing some work in the tenant space there so that we can move library people and resources into that library while the Modesto Library is closed. Those plans are in review for code compliance. In Riverbank and Newman, we've had some things in the works for a while. We did get a new architect assigned, so we hope to start seeing some movement there soon. And those specific projects will address critical ADA needs and address some water intrusion that we discovered when the drought was over. And to close it out, we are making great progress on our Modesto renovation project. We are still in the design phase. But things are progressing very quickly. Working within our existing improvement, we'll be making the space more welcoming and efficient. We're also making significant investments in accessibility and bringing the building up to current code. So that is our brief run through. Thank you for your time. I'm really happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Any questions from members of the board on the presentation? Supervisor Chiesa.
How much longer is Potter the Otter going to be out in Salida? I can't even.
It'll be here until June 3rd.
Till June. So
Yes.
if you have an opportunity to visit, it is about healthy eating, exercise. It's a great exhibit. They have a great space there. I also wanted to thank you. We were down at the Shining Star Awards for all the volunteers who work inside the libraries. I think there were 8 of them with PAWS this last Saturday. Librarian Denton and I were there, and it is truly amazing. You talk about people who commit to the community time, hundreds of hours of volunteer time to just make it better. And you talked about literacy, and so we know that we're challenged in the San Joaquin Valley, not just here in this county, in literacy. And literacy and libraries go hand in hand. And I've heard Supervisor Withrow say something that I always say, that education is the great equalizer for people coming up, and it starts in our library system. So again, I tell everyone, there's like 300,000 library cards out there out of 500,000 people in this county, or 550,000. Yeah. Pretty amazing what's available there. So thank you very much.
Happy to do it. Anybody else? Okay, and I have a lot of staff because everybody came this morning, so come on over.
Bring them on down. There's an accountant out there.
I know. Yeah, Curtis, remember, you've always got a spot with me.
Stop
when
it,
you're ready.
Whitfield.
Just stop it already, Terry.
Well, welcome everyone from the library. Appreciate it. No need to use your library voice in here. We appreciate everything you do. We know that the libraries are a foundation that for many, many generations. Here in Stanislaus County, I think you can talk to anybody and they have a good memory of the library. And that's why you have that devoted fan base. Mm-hmm. And that's why people love the vibe in the library. So proclaiming April 7th through 13th, 2024 as Library Week in Stanislaus County, libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, pursue their passions, no matter where they are on life's journey. So all the good things that come from the library, and it doesn't happen without all of you. But the board wants to acknowledge that, and for that reason, the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors proclaims April 7th through the 13th as Stanislaus County Library Week, encourages everyone to visit their local library. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here. The state of the county this week is going to be at the Modesto Library. So I would encourage all of you to be there and tell your devoted fan base to be there to see all the changes, positive changes we are making in the library. So thank you so much for all of you being here and being recognized as.
Everyone's got to get in a little closer.
Thank you.
Already put in the application, Terry.
Thanks, Curtis. We'll see you soon.
All right, well, thank you so much. It was great having the librarian and all our staff here today. And our next presentation is going to be an update on the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Office Special Victims Human Trafficking Unit. And that presentation will be conducted by Sheriff Jeff Turksey. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm actually not going to do the presentation. I'm just going to intro it. But this, unfortunately, this topic of human trafficking is not nearly as pleasant as the library. I think we can all acknowledge that. But I'm very proud of the team that we have and the dedication that we have to combating human trafficking. And today's presentation actually came from our last presentation, I think, on cannabis, and Supervisor Withrow had asked some questions related to the human trafficking aspect of that. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Craig Osmondson, who's going to run through the presentation, and I think we're going to be joined by a member of the DA's office, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. So, Craig, the show is yours.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Craig Osmondson. I was here not too long ago actually speaking about air support and drones. So we are back again today to speak about Special Victims Unit. This is my primary assignment. I am the supervisor, and I've been working with the Sheriff's Department for about 10 years. So this is an exciting topic to brief you guys on. When most people think of Special Victims Unit, this is kind of what they envision. A TV show that gives you entertainment for about 30 minutes where every crime is solved in 30 minutes and they get a full-fledged confession with every detail of the crime within the first 2 minutes of interrogation. That is not the case. That's not how the real world works. However, there are some similarities in the crimes, and know that this unit is, these crimes are not for entertainment. These are heinous crimes that are out there. They are happening within our jurisdiction and within our own community. And that is what my unit is dedicated to combating. So you might ask yourself, what specifically is a Special Victims Unit? It is a collaboration of specialized detectives who have very particularized set of skills and trainings to handle a very wide array of different types of investigations. In a nutshell, really what we do is give those victims who don't have a voice a fighting chance. So that's what our training and our disciplines come into effect. We fight for the elderly, we fight for the kids, we fight for the disabled, we fight for the exploited. Anybody that does not have a true voice, that's why we exist, that's why we are here, to put those exploiters behind bars and to attempt to get these individuals a fresh start. A quick breakdown of what our unit looks like within the Special Victims Unit. My Lieutenant Landeros is quietly sitting in back. And then I have a wide array of what you can see are specialized detectives in particular fields. But when an incident occurs, we kind of act as a mini task force and then tackle those subset of crimes. When it comes to the breakdown of our unit, you'll see domestic violence handles an array of different types of crimes to include adult sex crimes, elder abuse. We have child crimes detectives. I have 2 of those who investigate child crimes, child abuse, and internet crimes. Human trafficking, like the sheriff spoke on. We do have sex trafficking, labor trafficking as part of our responsibility, and I'm excited to present a task force that was established about 18 months ago, and we'll briefly touch on that as we move forward. 2 detectives assigned to that to investigate all of those types of crimes. Missing persons to include parental abductions and child abductions. I have a community service officer assigned to that, as well as the sex and arson registrant desk, which handles all of the registrants within Stanislaus County. We have just over 400 of them that we are responsible for providing checks and balances for those, and I have 1 community service officer assigned to them. A quick graph just to kind of depict the number of investigations that we handle on a yearly basis from 2022 to 2024 currently. You can see domestic violence is up there in the number of calls or investigations that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So when you say 419 cases and I have 1 detective, that is a lot to manage in the realms of domestic violence. And 2024 is just underway. We have a proactive approach to Special Victims Unit. Rather than consistently being reactive, we want to get out there and make our footprint known. A way to do that is to come up with different types of operations. Some of those are pertaining to kid crimes, and some of those are pertaining to human trafficking. This particular one had to do, we decided to combat sexual registrants from entering the fairgrounds during the fair to try and keep the community and the kids safe that were there. Proactively, we were monitoring all of our 400 registrants and preventing them from entering the fair where they have terms and conditions that would prevent them from doing such. That being said, we arrested 9 that year. Operation Boogeyman, this also has to do with some 290 sexual registrants, and we do this prior to Halloween in an attempt to make Halloween a safe place. We ensure that they are compliant and following those guidelines. In total, last year, we 25 contacts with my team, and we arrested 15 of those for various violations. Operation Safe House was an exciting new venture that we started last year. This was quite a successful operation. We had some UC detectives and decoys posing online as kids, and these individuals solicited sex acts with those kids. We arranged a meeting, and we fulfilled their wishes and met them and took them into custody, and they are currently in the process of being prosecuted. Within Special Victims Unit, here's a couple of notable cases I bring to you just to show the good work of my unit and what these detectives are doing on a day-to-day basis and the collaboration that they are doing with our state and federal partners. You can see with the criminal subsets that they have been charged with, anywhere from possession of child pornography to kidnapping of a minor to unlawful sex acts with a minor. We have been working in great collaboration with our local DA's office, and within that DA's office there are several deputy district attorneys specifically assigned to Special Victims Unit. We have quite the relationship with them, and they have done a fantastic job in prosecuting the cases that we're bringing to them, and that's evident by the years and months that you see under each one of their names, to include a lifetime registration of a sexual registrant. So kudos to the DA for a job well done. In a nutshell, that kind of wraps up our Special Victims Unit, and I'm going to branch off to the human trafficking sector for just a moment. In 2023, the Sheriff's Department filed for and was awarded and accepted a grant, a federally funded grant through the DOJ that gave us the ability to staff an additional detective and a crime analyst to our Special Victims Unit for the specific purpose of combating human trafficking. And then a quick video for you.
New for you tonight, the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Office revealing the details about a recent human trafficking operation. Human trafficking operation.
In Stanislaus County.
Stanislaus County Sheriff's Office Task Force Against Human Trafficking participated in Operation Reclaim and Rebuild. Ended with more than 70 arrests.
27 men are now behind bars.
Well, more than 60 people have been arrested, charged with trafficking a minor.
Human trafficking young girls.
They're facing pedophilia-related charges.
Multiple charges, including human trafficking of a minor, sexual assault of a minor, possession of child pornography.
This is the result of an undercover operation by the Stanislaus Task Force Against Human Trafficking.
An inside look into this massive law enforcement operation, seeking to stop human trafficking across California.
So that video is just a quick glimpse of what we were able to accomplish and what we have accomplished just within the past 18 months under the human trafficking grant. So all of those arrests primarily came from human trafficking operations. As a 2-minute video, shout out to Gary Condit for putting that together. Did a great job. I think we have enough material that we could probably give you a 2-hour video of so many different types of arrests, but time constraints. Overall, I think this task force is working, and HEAT, you might ask yourself, what the heck does that stand for? We did change names. We were originally called STAT. We migrated over to HEAT. I was tired of having to turn in stats for the grant. I got tired of saying it, so we switched over to HEAT. Human Exploitation and Trafficking is now our task force grant name. So this OVC grant, it's called an Enhanced Collaborative Model through the DOJ. Basically what we have gotten through the feds is $750,000 over the course of 3 years. We have joined partners with our victim service advocates, Haven of Stanislaus County. They are our go-to and our partner within the task force. They too were given the $750,000 also for their side of the house, and together we've been able to, at least at the Sheriff's Department, we've been able to staff a detective and a crime analyst full-time, specifically to human trafficking for the next 3 years. The intent and purpose, and this just kind of basically gives us a breakdown. We have an in-kind match for the grant, so that gives us 2 full-time detectives and then 1 crime analyst, and then myself as a supervisor under this grant. The OVC grant is designed for the state and local federal collaboration, basically. This is a regional approach, so it's not just specific to Stanislaus County. We could work with San Joaquin County, we could work with Merced County, Tuolumne County. Our problem is not just in Stanislaus County. Unfortunately, we are kind of a major thoroughfare to get to the Bay Area, to get to Sacramento, to get to LA, to get to Reno, Lake Tahoe. And this is a nice place for these people to bed down and stop for the night. So We have arrested countless people who don't reside here, and basically this circuit of human trafficking exists from the Bay Area to Sacramento, down to Reno, to Vegas, to LA, back up the I-5 or the 99 corridor, and Stanislaus County just happens to be kind of right in the middle of everything, and so we often see a lot of these outsiders end up within our county. That's where a lot of those proactive operations that you saw on the video stem from. We see these ads, we see these individuals come through, we set up sting operations, and then we take them into custody. The specific core task force that we talk about under the grant, we have a federal partnership through HSI. They are our federal oversight outside of DOJ, and then with our very own Stanislaus County District Attorney's Office as our prosecutors. So between the four of us, we are the core task force. We are constantly recruiting new departments, new nonprofits, new agencies to build this thing up as big and as powerful as possible. Our mission statement for the HEAT grant, and I won't read this verbatim, basically it is just a collaboration of local, state, and federal partnerships to combat human trafficking. These are the folks that we have worked with already just within the last 18 months. They are some local, they are some far away, they are some federal, they are some nonprofit, and as a result of those partnerships with our DA's office and with the AUSA from the federal side, we have had several successful arrests out of those. As I kind of spoke of a proactive approach for the Special Victims Unit side, there's also the proactive approach for human trafficking. One of those proactive operations is a partnership that we have with the Los Angeles Regional Human Trafficking Task Force. They established this operation to combat human trafficking. It is 1 week long. Stanislaus County got involved about 2018, and we've been a partner ever since. Little old Stanislaus County has dedicated time and resources to that, to the point where all 58 counties in California are invited to partake in this. Stanislaus County has placed second or third within the last 3 years. So couldn't be more ecstatic with my team and the outcome that we've had, and the hard work and the support that our sheriff has had for the purpose of combating human trafficking. But very successful operation. And you'll see here, 2022, 63 arrests, 13 rescues, and then several exploiters arrested, to 57 arrests. This year we had 76 arrests specific to human trafficking, ranging from a very wide array of different types of investigations. But that was all done. We even had a couple of arrest days, so you're looking at about 5 operational days. We had 76 arrests. A few notable cases, and these are examples of individuals that were arrested for exploitation, and I speak of that human trafficking circuit earlier. This is a prime example of that. Several of these individuals do not belong in Stanislaus County. They are not from here. They may merely have been passing through or from adjacent counties that happened to come into Stanislaus County after our undercover operation was successful, and then arrested. So although Stanislaus County is not a huge metropolitan area like LA, we still have every bit of a problem as anywhere else. Since 2023, and under our grants, we have had 148 arrests total. So within 18 months, we've had 148. We're looking at 81 rescues, and those are people that have been pulled from the lifestyle, provide services, given support, relocated, offered counseling, and got them tied into the supportive system, with 15 exploiters from there. As part of our requirement for the grant, education is a huge component, much like I'm doing today, to educate the general public and the Board of Supervisors about human trafficking and about our grant. In 2023, you're looking at 54 different individual teachings, whether those are schools, whether those are churches, victim advocates, law enforcement. We have to teach our own about human trafficking. We are here to educate, And 2024 is going to be no exception. We have already 6 of those. We're off to a good start with several more on the books. Now, that being said, I didn't want to take up the entire time. I'm going to defer to Assistant Chief Sam Lizatis, who's from the DA's office here in Stanislaus County. This gentleman was one of the, call it the pioneers of Special Victims Unit, and one that we collaborated with a great deal to receive those large prosecutions and those large sentencings. I wanted him to briefly touch on what he's doing at the DA's office also to combat human trafficking, and then what that looks like through their eyes. So, Sam?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us. Again, like Sergeant Osmundson talked about, I just wanted to kind of talk briefly about our support of the Sheriff's Department. When I first joined the SVU unit in 2021, it kind of coincided with Sergeant Osmundson and his team kind of coming together and putting more resources towards these types of crimes. And I can tell you that from 2021 to now, there's been a stark difference and a huge impact on even our office of how we're handling these types of cases. When I first went into the unit, we had 2 level 4 DDAs that were handling those types of cases, each having about 40 to 50 cases each. Today, we've now dedicated, because in large part to Sergeant Osmundson and his team's proactive efforts, in response to that increase in caseload and quality of investigation, we now have 3 level 5 DDAs full-time handling these types of cases, including an assistant chief DDA as well. Right now, in response to the HEAT operations or the HEAT grant, we actually currently have a DDA and a chief DDA at a training right now in San Diego, specifically on human trafficking, so that we're better prepared, better versed, and more competent in prosecuting these types of cases. Right now, we've seen a huge uptick in the percentage of pimping and pandering cases. We have a handful of human trafficking cases, 236.1 type cases, where we found someone pimping a minor or doing it while they were depriving their liberty. And that's been a huge change from when I first came into the unit, where maybe we had 2 or 3. Right now we have about 12 or 15 open pimping and pandering cases, and that's not even including the ones that maybe have gone federal due to these operations. And then just on top of that, I did want to kind of also expound on Sergeant Osmundson's comments about kind of the change in how our office has been collaborating with law enforcement, specifically with the Sheriff's Department. We see a lot of the detectives in the back row there, where it has become a lot more collaborative, where we are talking, they are taking in our advice, bringing us into these meetings before they do these operations so that we're doing them correctly and that we're ending up with a just result. And really, I'm just here to say, hey, we are in full support of everything that the Sheriff's Department is doing, as you saw from the presentation, with their proactive efforts in really sending out a message that this type of activity is not welcome here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. That's all I got. Sheriff?
Thank you, Craig, and thank you, Sam. We'll be happy to take any questions. I know this has been a little bit longer, but it's a big topic. And the only thing that I want to conclude with is kind of the message for the community is that human trafficking is here and active in our community, but we are also actively going after it to keep our community safer. And I will volunteer Craig and his team for any community trainings that may be requested as a result of this. Sorry, Craig. But no, gentlemen, we're subject to your questions.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. Very informative, and we appreciate everything you're doing. Next questions. I know Supervisor Withrow.
Just a couple comments. Thank you guys for doing this, for coming back. I know when we did this last month, I think it was, a month before, where we had the presentation about cannabis, and I'm going to say the same thing I said then. It was ironic. We were there celebrating Black History Month, right? And we're talking about the end of slavery and 180 years since Emancipation Proclamation. And then we had you guys come up and talk about cannabis, and I think it was somebody from the DA's office that just in passing kind of said, unfortunately, we have an increase in this human trafficking, which is slavery, right? I mean, we're celebrating that we don't have slavery anymore, and slavery is alive and well in this state, and I'm sure across the country. So I want to thank you guys for what you're doing, all of you guys, and commend you for the work you're doing. It's unfortunately, and this is close to me because my son's involved in this stuff, and it has become the cartels and what's going on in our southern borders right now. The profit now is in human trafficking, and it's starting to exceed the drug trafficking. And so it's just that important that we get the word out there. We had a briefing the other day with Rob, like Vito and I did, where we were talking about vendors, illegal vendors, and we got into these fruit stands and these flower sellers. And I can tell you, and Rob could attest to it, and they talked about one of them that they actually impounded a little cart from somebody, and the individual started crying. I think the guy started crying and he said that something to the effect of it's going to extend his slavery, basically, because he's losing his cart, and now he's going to have to continue to be in this what do they call this? Servitude. Indentured servitude. And so, which is slavery. And so, thank you guys so much for what you're doing and bringing this to the public attention. We've got to continue to get this out there. One of the organizations you had up there on the screen, Without Permission, a great organization that's doing all they can also. And so I just, again, commend you guys for your work and can't thank you enough for what you're doing.
Yeah. Supervisor Chiesa.
Two quick questions. One right off of what Terry had just said. I see we're partnering with Haven House, which is for women trafficked, which is a fantastic organization. We know at the Cannabis Grows that there's men and women, and I know before we really don't arrest them, you probably process them, but where do the men get services? Do they get services? And then the second question is there was a word, victimology, which I didn't know what that meant.
So men can receive services, yes, absolutely. And these nonprofits, they have they have an understanding that not just women are victims of all of this, and they understand that men are too. And so they do have services. So everything that's offered to a female is, again, offered to a male. Safe havens, supplies, counseling, and they basically get put in touch with them. The term victimology, it's just the idea, the concept, and the understanding of where that victim comes from, and trying to put yourself into their shoes and understanding what they're going through, and realizing that, my team of investigators, amazing team, they are comprised of male and female, English and Spanish speaking. So we have a wide array of different ways that we can approach a person in need or a victim. It's understanding all of those caveats to provide the best service for them. So if their exploiter was a male, I might not pair them up with a male investigator. I might pair them up with a female interviewer if that makes them feel more comfortable. So it's really trying to put yourself in the mindset and into their shoes to just understand where they came from and what services are going to best fit them at this particular time. Maybe counseling isn't for them 6 hours after being rescued. Maybe that's something that we're going to save for 6 weeks after, right? So it's just every person is different. Every case is handled a little bit differently. And that concept, that idea, that victimology is just kind of that blanket approach for everybody.
Thanks, Sergeant.
Supervisor Buckconda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you to the entire team. I can't imagine the circumstances that you guys come across. I want to say thank you to our nonprofits, Haven, Without Permission. We have to start that healing process for those victims right off the bat. And I couldn't say it any better than my colleagues here today. But I just have one question. Do you find that obviously probably a lot of single exploiters, right? They come across that opportunity, take advantage of somebody. How many do you see now that are actually leading to more organized criminal organizations?
It is. It's a mix of all of it. It's social media is an influence, so you might have the isolated exploiter who takes advantage of a situation. So you might have that, or you might be talking about a large-scale multinational, transcontinental organization that landed in Stanislaus County. We recently tackled a couple of illicit massage parlors, and through that investigation, it's spiderwebbed out beyond anything fathomable that I'm not even going to begin to explain. But it is so convoluted and complex, the way that they have built their structure. So it is like combating organized crime in the cartel. But it could be a guy around the corner from your house who just took advantage of a situation and exploited one individual. So we don't know what we're going to get into until our trained detectives and investigators crack it open and see what's inside. So we don't know. We don't know until we get in.
Thank you, guys.
Supervisor Chance Condit?
No, I just want to commend you guys for your service. Thank you for keeping our public safe. Thank you for being proactive. Wonderful presentation, very informative, and just thank you for everything you do. Awesome video, by the way. It's very cool visual.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, he did a solid.
You know the producer, I believe.
He needs.
I might know him. Yeah, that's
did
pretty cool.
He did a solid job.
No, it was amazing. Hollywood quality for sure.
Yeah. Oh, very good. We're just missing his credits at the end of the video.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate it. You see the sentiment amongst the board. We appreciate you doing this and coming and doing this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we are going to open up public comment. And I have a few public comment cards for items not on the agenda. And first being Milt Treeweiler. Apologize, it was written a little different. Thanks, Milt. Is the timer still on? All right, so the timer won't be working today, so we're on an honor system. Just kind of, it's a 5-minute honor system. When you feel that it's been about 5 minutes, it's probably been about 5 minutes.
Good morning, board, staff, and citizens. Milt Treeweiler. I'm a lifetime Stanislaus County resident. The farmland surrounding our county cities is the best farmland in the world. Once you build houses on this farmland, you will never be able to grow food on it to eat. Everything else in Stanislaus County can be replaced except the prime farmland and the water we have to irrigate it. Our ancestors gave us MID and TID to provide us with all the water we need to farm this farmland on for hundreds of years. In a survey last year of what people feared most in the United States, number 1 was corrupt government. Number 2 was economic and financial collapse. Number 3 was Russia using nuclear weapons. We must all have food to stay alive. This is fact and reality. 10 or 15 days without food and you are dead. It would be irresponsible for our children and our descendants would suffer for the bad decisions we would be making today if we were to let this land be developed. We're educated people. We know we can't survive without food. There's not 1 acre of farmland in some entire states and even countries as good as the farmland northwest of Riverbank or to the north of Turlock, or as the farmland in the areas around Ceres, Houston, Modesto, and unincorporated Salida. This farmland can grow food to feed us for hundreds of years. There is an abundance of poor soils in Stanislaus County for the developers to build houses on, like the areas west of Interstate 5, or the area east of Oakdale, or northwest of Patterson, or south of Turlock. These areas are not suitable for growing fruit and nut crops or other agricultural commodities, but fine for building houses on. We can also grow up instead of out. We can build high-rise apartment dwelling units, high-rise condominiums, and townhouses on the infill areas of all of our Stanislaus County cities and unincorporated towns to provide affordable housing for our working people. We must do the right thing. It's everyone's responsibility to preserve this farmland. Let's work together to accomplish this goal so our descendants can have food to eat and can live happy lives. At the meeting on March 12th, you, the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors, declared to promote an understanding of our county's agricultural industry. You declared that Stanislaus County agriculture helps feed the world. fuels the county's economy, and is the largest positive contributor to our county's net trade balance. This is true and correct. But then you allow the Stanislaus County to be advertised on the county website with the following words, quote, Stanislaus County makes up the Modesto Metropolitan Statistical Area. The county is located just east of San Francisco Bay Area and serves as a bedroom community for those who work in the eastern part of the Bay Area. Later on, it states, as the price of housing has increased in the San Francisco Bay Area, many people who work in the southern reaches of the Bay Area have opted for longer commutes and moved to Stanislaus County for the relatively affordable housing. This is bad, this is wrong, this has to change. Under the heading of economy, it states agriculture in this same feed, agriculture is Stanislaus County's #1 industry, with almonds being the primary agricultural crop. That's the only thing it says. This shows us that there's a problem with the county administration. The person or people responsible for this need to go. A person can have a degree and not be educated. This is unexcusable, and this must stop. These false and crazy statements must be removed from the county website. Very shortly, Stanislaus County will be one of the few places in the world where food can be grown for our children and our descendants. This needs to be taken care of as quickly as possible. Thank you, supervisors, and do your job. You serve the people, not the developers or the people who are promoting this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker I have is Martha Martin.
Good morning, board, and good morning, public. I come on behalf of myself as well as the thousands of others who I'm going to speak for. I serve as the president of the county's Commission on Aging, but I am not here in that particular role. I am here because, first of all, I very much enjoyed listening to the library presentation, and that's such a wonderful experience when you do go into the library. What I am going to speak to is going into another division that many of us have to traipse into, and that is the Department of Motor Vehicles. Whether you live in any part of the county, at some part in your life, at some time in your life, you are going to experience the DMV. Personally, I had mishaps with the DMV, both in the Turlock office 3 years ago, as well as the Modesto office in September. And I waited almost 7 weeks for my license after my purse was stolen in September. The license never arrived. I went down and discovered that the woman I had spoken with never even inputted my name into the system. So consequently, if I had not been an advocate for myself, this would not have happened. I would have been waiting for my license. When you go into the DMV, you're going to expect certain things. You're going to expect competence from employees. You're hoping for a quick resolution to whatever the issue might be that you're in there for. And third, you hope that it is resolved, whatever you have gone in. So because of many, many people that have come before us and my personal experiences, I am asking, and I will on my part for the Commission on Aging, ask that we have a speaker that comes to our meetings and request that they attend on a regular basis so that issues can be spoken of in the here and now. But for the Board of Supervisors, what I am asking of you is I'm requesting that you ask the Department of Motor Vehicles in this county to form a panel, to form a committee, a commission, whereby issues, policies, whatever comes before the public that deals with issues of driving, licensing, motor vehicles in general, so that we have a contact person, that we have a contact that we, if we have issues, can go to. Because picking up the phone, trying to get into the DMV office and speak with a human being is virtually impossible. So in my lasting comments here, I am asking for your input to put a little bit of pressure, if you want to call it that, on DMV so that a panel is formed of interested citizens who would serve as a conduit for this agency so that they can hear the public, not just those 60 years of age and older, but all of us collectively. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Martin. Some of our state partners are here and federal partners. They've also heard what you've said, so we'll all amplify what you have said to our state representatives.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grewal.
Thank you. Right, next speaker I have is Nirmal Basi.
Good morning, Supervisors, Chairman Maringarawal. My comments are also towards the DMV. In 2019, I developed a separated retina in my right eye. So I went to the DMV, they tested my eyesight, told me that I had to take every 2 years a visionary driving test and a written test in order to procure my license. I did all those. I asked the examiner that how long do I have to do this, because my eyesight in my left eye is 20/20 with glasses. And they informed me that it was up to the person that gives you the test to determine that now he can go back to every 5 years and not every 2 years to get. And I did all this from 2019, 2021, 2023. And I went back, on 2023, the examiner told me that your right eye is not going to get any better, and that if you take this to the doctor, have her sign this off, or he sign this area off, we're going to put you back on every 5 years. So I left, this is in September of 2023, that I was able to procure that from the DMV. And then just 2 weeks ago, I went back to the DMV because my DMV is every 5 years, so my license doesn't have to be renewed until 5 years, and the 5 years are up this year. And so I went 2 weeks ago to get my license renewed, and the person behind my particular number that I went to informed me that we have no record of you getting a real ID, which I have procured in 2021, I believe, and we have no record of you ever taking a visionary driver's test. This kind of information they're looking at a screen and then we're not showing me what's going on. It's the same situation where you go and they don't do their paperwork as far as putting that person or persons into the system, so that everything is above board. My comment is this, that if that's what's going on, we need to have a person that we need to go to, because everyone you talk to at DMV is a supervisor. And it's awfully disheartening to go there anyway, but when you get that information, so my conclusion is does anybody have a director, general manager that I can have a meeting with and say, because I don't have any faith in the DMV doing my paperwork for the next 5 years, and then when I go back in 5 years, if I'm still alive, that I can renew my license. It's very disheartening to go to the DMV and find out that they have no record of you ever gone through the process. So, so that's my hoping that I get a name or of somebody or a position that I can approach and have a meeting with, and that's it.
Well, thank you so much. I know that Jacob Falder with State Senator Maria Alvarado Gil's office is already connected with Ms. Martin. He'd be more than happy to connect with you. I would like to say Jacob can solve a lot of problems, but DMV is a tough one to do. But I know their office can help and hopefully get you to a person that you could reach out to directly and share your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Daniel Wendell.
Hello, my name is Daniel Wendell. I've been up here before. Terry knows me pretty well. I'm also part of the mental health board indirectly. I did get some certificates from them, like 3 before COVID, so that was pretty nice. Hopefully we do that again. I'm also interested in sitting on that board still. I was in the hospital recently, so that kind of took me away. I did have some problems with the DMV. That's a different issue. I would like to have someone to talk to me about that, to help solve the issue I have with my car. But I'm trying to get onto another subject. I've been involved a lot in this city, also in the Bay Area. I'm from San Jose, California. I've been involved with a lot of nonprofits. My dad's company was very successful in turning into a corporation, a lot because of from being able to donate. I believe that for a corporation or for a lot of businesses, a lot of times to be successful, if you're able to make it into a corporation, if you're fortunate enough and able to write off a lot of your expenses, that's how a lot of businesses hopefully stay or are successful. So I hope that that with the board's ability or somebody in the city, this county, that maybe I can go through a learning process. That either I go to school or they can encourage me to go the right direction to learn how to do like grants, because it would be nice to, like with all the different agencies I've worked with in the Bay Area and here, like with United Way, for example, it's like 211 should be hopefully the number. I don't know if it is, but it's supposed to. There's county numbers, which should be local for everybody. The 211, United Way, 311, non-emergency police number. There's a whole bunch of numbers which should work, and sometimes you call them, it's like I don't even think they work. So too bad if they don't. Too bad those numbers don't work across the board for the state of California. 411 used to be, or there's a 1-800-FREE-411. That's a good number for people to know if they need a way to get to get information. You don't have a phone on you, what has internet. Call 1-800-FREE-411, and they will get a little commercial, but then they'll give you information for free. So like there's a lot of like really simple, easy stuff out there that would be nice for people in our county, in our city, even the state, the world. Like I worked with food banks before, like the Santa Clara Food Bank in the Bay Area for over 10 years, and we were tied to like 800 agencies, and we fed like 500,000 people a year, or like 100,000 every year, like every month 100,000 people from Santa Clara Food Bank, and we were tied to like 40 really big corporations like Applied Material and a whole bunch of like news stations and everything. So it was a great organization. So if we can partner with the food bank and learn their systems over there and partner with how they did stuff with those. I agree with that last guy that way with housing, like building higher, not across. We should what a great district would be is that we were supposed to have transit what came in like rapid transit what came into the downtown station. It would be nice. I also told a local supervisor that we should be partnering with the transit authority to figure out what the heck happened to all that transit money what was supposed to be going into the downtown Modesto transit station. And we should be talking to the agency if there's a way that we can still get that money and eventually maybe build like all the buildings in the back, partnering with those buildings to build up. That would be a nice idea, and then also make mixed housing with the buildings what already exist. I don't know. There's a lot of potentially really good ideas and a clean energy. Like everything is a renewable energy. Like even the body fluids will come out of our body. We can be using that for methanol, or there's different ways we can be reusing. Anything that's energy is energy. If we can keep a clean cycle of energy and keep it going and reuse practically everything, that would be nice. And hopefully we can be on the cutting edge of a lot of new technologies. And MJC, I know West Campus has a lot of potential. East too, but West definitely. And we should be partnering with all the different agencies that we have to the best of our ability and be the future for a lot of things out there. That would be nice. We're already doing a great job in a lot of areas, but I think we can grow exponentially like 1,000 times more now. And we're just at a starting point. Like a starting point to the future. This is now everything in the future is going to be exponentially growing. We need to hopefully be light years ahead of everyone. That would be nice. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah. Would like to comment, Supervisor
I was going
Rico?
to say, Daniel, thank you. We appreciate your work on the mental health board. Thank you all you're doing.
All right, any other speakers didn't have a card but would like to speak? Ron McMurdy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ron McMurtry here. I would like to reprimand you, Mr. Chairman. I would have liked to make comments for Sheriff Dirksey and for the library people. For right now, I'll just do a little testimony about the library. I have used the library system for a long time, including university libraries when I was getting my degree. They used to have I just want to talk about the evolution so you kind of see that there's some interesting developments that the general public don't know about. There used to be something called interlibrary loan, so if your library didn't have a book, some other university or some other library can do that. The modern version is something called Link Plus. It connects to all the public libraries in California and Nevada, so you can get just about any book you want. Some of the universities participate, so I can get some of the more academic things. And so this is nice that we have that. There was no funding a while ago, and now we have access to it. In fact, I used to go to the San Joaquin library system because they had interlibrary loan. Stanislaus didn't have it. So anyway, so it's this Link Plus thing. It's really nice. And then on top of that, if a book is not in the Link Plus system, starting with COVID, because we didn't want any human-to-human contact, any books that were not in the system, you could order a book, they'd buy it for you, ship to you, and then you bring it back to the library and they put it in their system, and I just got one of those books. So I just want the public to know that we're in a situation where you can get a hold of pretty much any book as long as it's not a very expensive one. So I just want to let you know that the main thing of the library everyone knows about is checking out books. I know they have to expand, they have to adapt to new times, but getting books, yeah, it's really impressive now. And I just wanted to do a little testimonial. Thank you.
We had another speaker, Emerson Drake.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say as a challenge to Vito Chiesa, Supervisor Chiesa, for the devoted fan list for the library. I know you're one of the staunchest members too, and you beat me with my library card the last time, so I left it in my pocket. I will say, though, that nobody said it was a free fine week, which I would have looked forward to, but you know how that goes. But I've got some concerns today. Have to use these. I've been following along with the Stanislaus Tuolumne Rivers Groundwater Basin Association Groundwater Sustainability Agency. I'm not going to say that again. But I've got some concerns. I mentioned it to you when I was here the last time that we need your leadership. There was a letter that they received about 3 or 4 weeks ago that talked about some ways that we could actually make some inroads into saving our water. It was actually supported by farmers, so it's not like I'm a member of the city and I want to guard it, but though I do. That's beside the point. But what I've seen today, and I mentioned to see if you had a copy of it yet, because I know the city council has, a wide variety of people have, but you weren't on the list. And it was from our friends at Stacy Henderson, the paid lobbyist for Bill Lyons. You know, this guy made the $8 million selling our water outside the basin, and unfortunately, I haven't seen a law against that yet, and that's what I'm hoping for. Well, now you can't believe, I'll make sure you get a copy, but you can't believe what he put down here. Half-truths, partial truths, no truths. You know, I understand when people want to put money in their pockets, I can appreciate that, but when you're stealing water from the rest of the county, the rest of the basin, it's just not right. When you're pumping that water out beside the river and using free water from MID, it's wrong. But yet we continue to allow it. So we need to make sure that we take the steps. And I'm asking you to look in, you'll get this letter, and if you didn't get the first one from people that are more, let's call them upright, I'll be happy to make sure you get a copy because it's real entertaining, it's real good reading. It's some ideas that most people don't want to put forth at a time when we've got a lot of water. Because we all know 2 years from now we could be sitting in a drought going, God, I wish I had that water back. And that doesn't happen. We all know we need to store more water. That's nothing we're going to solve right now. But you have it in your ability to take the steps that we need to watch our groundwater and try to preserve some of it. You know, we're running at a deficit. You get 7 or 8 inches of rain a year, and it takes 4 inches or 4 feet for almonds. I'm not begrudging the almonds, not at all. But I want to make sure that people like Trinitas, well, they've changed names several times now, that have the access to water thanks to, let's just say, political games by the OID, and they chose not to use it, and they pumped water instead. Now, what they're doing is wrong, what they're continuing to do is wrong, and you're the only people that can make a difference. So you need to please dig in and say enough is enough. And I'll be happy to help you with the details if you need. Secondly, you know, we have enough trouble in Modesto right now, people coming in, politicians washing each other's back is common. It's expected almost. But when the chairman of the board of supervisors comes to visit a committee meeting to ensure that his brother gets put on the planning commission, I take offense to that. If you want to come in front of the board or come in front of the city council and request it, okay. But when you slide in the door at the last minute, and why would they care? Well, it's an even more entertaining story. Can you believe that somebody voted? The head of that committee is Jeremiah Williams. Jeremiah's daughter was appointed to the Planning Commission about 4 years ago. Now she has, and she's a nice person. It's not a personal shot. But the problem is she had no qualifications other than being a voter in Stanislaus County. When they went to read, the appointments committee went to read the list of things why we were going to re-up it again, there's nothing on it. It was fun to see the individual's face. And then he skipped right past. He just didn't realize what he'd stepped in. So I'm asking that you stay out of the committee meetings, and I don't think that's being unfair, just to get your brother a position on the planning commission. It's not difficult to see. It's not right, and it shouldn't happen. Let's hope it doesn't happen again. Last but not least, it's always nice to leave on a light note. You know, you've shown no offense and inability to milk the magic cow. You know, and that to me are the dispensaries. There's a lot of money to be made there. We have more concerns like drunk driving, the number of people that they kill every year in this county, or in this state, or in this country. But we focusing on the dispensaries. I don't begrudge that, but you're having difficulty making money from it. I love the fact that doesn't work. I'm surprised you don't have Zoom, by the way, to cut out for just a second, because I've only been here about 30 seconds. No. Okay, but since you can't milk that cow, and you're going to get tired of that cow, I'm going to offer you an age-old option. I have a packet of magic beans. I'm willing to trade you for that cow, just to show you how to make money at it. No, the sheriff is interested in these magic beans, and not that kind of magic. But I can help you with that. It's pretty straightforward. I'm going to suggest you can probably manage on your own, but if you can't, I'm saving these magic beans, okay? Any other issues you come across? Magic beans. Do you have any questions? I thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Any other members of the public for public comment? All right, seeing none, then I will move to the consent calendar. Any items from the board that they'd like to take off for consent to discuss?
I just want to comment on A3, but take it as a whole.
Okay. Feel free to comment on A3.
Okay, so this is I have a retirement or a resignation from a Denair MAC member, Kimberly Stokes. She's leaving town, so there is a position open in the Denair MAC. You can either call my office, 209-525-6440, to get the map, or go on the website under Municipal Advisory Councils under the Board of Supervisors to check it out, to get an application. Thank you.
All right, any other items? Any members of the public wanting to pull any items for further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board for a possible motion.
Move to approve items on consent.
Second.
All right, motion from Supervisor Chance Condon, second from Supervisor Buck Condon. All please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, consent calendar passes. Next item 6.1. I do have a couple public comment cards that once the item's been presented, an opportunity for those members of the public to speak on. And this item will be handled by my vice chair, Buck Condit. I'll be stepping off the dais with just some parting thoughts. I really enjoy being chairman of the board this year. If Buck does this phenomenal job, he's going to be chair in 8 months. Just bear with me for 8 months. Thank you so much.
I believe we also have a second conflict. That would be with Terry Withrow. He's a member of the board of the Oak Valley Community Bank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna differ with you, Tom, on this. I respect you, appreciate your opinions, but I don't believe I do have a conflict. The bank has actually not even approved this loan at this point, formally approved it. And if it was to come before the board, or before the bank board, I would conflict off of that. And I would ask that we find, that we need to find a second opinion on this before I get conflicted and asked to leave. So I'd ask my colleagues to allow us to table this for today, and until we get an opinion that would, a second opinion that would determine whether I can stay on this and vote on this or not.
I would second tabling the item.
So, okay, discussion now. We cannot table the item, or we're going to effectively kill the project.
No, projects can always be, we can always get an extension on an escrow. I mean, that's done daily, right? I mean, that happens all the time.
So,
yeah, if not, I'm gonna stay up here.
I would, I don't know why, if you don't think there's a conflict, Tom can't make you leave.
Then that's fine too. I'll just.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was conferring with the chair. Was there a question?
Well, I said that you can't conflict him out. If he chooses to stay, he can stay.
That's right. A piece of information the public should know is that I am the counsel for the Board of Supervisors, not for the individual supervisors in their individual capacity. Conflicts are an individual question, and the supervisor cannot rely on my advice to determine whether or not he has a conflict.
Okay, then, yeah, if nobody wants to table this, then I will, I've been welcome, I'm gonna stay here.
You got my second on the table, Terry, but I'm glad you're staying anyways.
Thank you.
All right, and then I just want to tell my conflict. I have real property within vicinity of that. Outside of speaking with county council, I talked to my personal counsel, and it'd be better if I did not vote on this issue. So with that, Supervisor Buck Condit, like I said, he's going to do a great job, but he's going to be also chair in 8 months.
Take the training wheels off.
Sorry to get you on.
Okay, up for public hearings, we have Tina Rocha.
Hi, good morning, Board, CEO Hayes, and County Council Bose. I'm Tina Rocha, Assistant Executive Officer with Stanislaus County. Joining us today, and that you will be hearing from later, is Monica Streeter. She's General Counsel for the Stanislaus Council of Governments, which is also known as StanCog. Bond Counsel Ron Lee of Jones Hall, and then also Rosa De Leon Parks, who's the StanCog Executive Director. Just a little background. StanCog is a joint powers authority formed in 1971. Excuse me, yes?
It just now occurs to me that we had a motion to continue the item that was seconded, and we didn't deal with that motion. Sorry. Is it withdrawn, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just withdraw the motion.
I'll rescind my second.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
Tina.
No worries. So StanCog it's a joint powers authority formed in 1971 under the Joint Exercise of Powers Act. It's under California Government Code Section 6500. And members of StanCog include the county and then all 9 cities located within Stanislaus County. So under Government Code 6586, before incurring indebtedness to finance a capital improvement, it requires that a local agency within whose boundaries the improvements are to be located conduct a public hearing and also make a finding of significant public benefit as outlined under Government Code Section 6586. And under that section, a public benefit can be as a demonstrable savings in effective interest rate in a significant public benefit, is a significant public benefit. So why this is before the Board of Supervisors today is on April 5th, StanCog staff reached out and requested that Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors hold the public hearing and make the finding of significant public benefit. Last week on April 17th, the StanCog Policy Board approved the actions related to the acquisition and financing of real property located at 833 10th Street, Modesto, which is intended for use as the StanCog Administrative Building. And then on April 18th, Stanislaus County had a notice of the public hearing published in the Modesto Bee. Just wanted to note again that the reason this is before the Board of Supervisors is StanCog staff had requested that we bring it here. This was one of 2 bodies that could hear this, and that the finding of significant public benefit is based solely on information that we've received from StanCog. So at this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Monica Streeter, General Counsel for StanCog.
Good morning, Vice Chair Condit, members of the Board of Supervisors. As Ms. Rocha indicated, my name is Monica Streeter, and I am General Counsel for StanCog. She also introduced and identified that we have the Executive Director, Rosa De Leon Park, who is here with us, as is our Chair of the StanCog Policy Board, Javier Lopez, and we also have Special Bond Counsel, Ron Lee. So Ms. Rocha introduced the item. I'd just like to provide some additional background information to help bring some color as to why we're here. As Ms. Rocha stated, StanCog is a joint powers agency comprised of the 9 cities and the county itself. Although all of the cities and the county are members, StanCog is a separate and distinct entity from its member agencies. StanCog serves a variety of roles in the Stanislaus region, but our overarching role is that of a regional transportation planning agency. As you can see on the slide, this is a picture of the current office space that StanCog occupies. StanCog has been there since 2009, leasing this space at 1111 I Street, which is just down the street and across the street from the Stanislaus County Clerk Recorder. While StanCog has been leasing this space since 2009, the agency has always known that this is not our permanent home. The office lacks, if you could move to the next slide, please. The office lacks adequate space for a dais for the 16-member StanCog Policy Board and members of the public, as shown in the image on the screen. The elevator within the building is not always functional, and this creates an accessibility issue for members of the public. And parking in the downtown area has become increasingly more difficult to find. Given this, StanCog has been looking for a suitable permanent location. Next slide, please. The agency is currently in escrow on a building located at 833 10th Street, which is about 1 block from the downtown Modesto Transit Center, which is identified on the map as the green hexagon, and 833 10th Street is identified by the yellow star. The building is approximately twice the size of Stancog's current location. Next slide, please. This is an external image of the building. The building can accommodate a first floor boardroom, which would allow for accessibility, with a 16-member dais, seating for staff, and comfortably accommodate members of the public. Next slide, please. These are architectural renderings demonstrating what the boardroom could look like, and you can see it would be much more comfortable for our members of the board as well as our members of the public. Next slide, please. And this is just a different viewpoint indicating that same boardroom. The building can also accommodate conference rooms of varying sizes, office space, and workstations, which would allow for future agency growth. And there's also a parking lot with approximately 30 spaces, which could be used by staff as well as members of the public who would be visiting our offices. These features, along with proximity to public transit, make the building on 10th Street an ideal location for Stancog. Next slide, please. Currently, Stancog pays approximately $130,000 in rent annually, and this increases 3% each year. There are about $40,000 in additional costs for utilities, insurance, parking, and other miscellaneous expenses. The lease on the current building expires on June 30th of 2026. Next slide, please. We are currently in escrow on 833 10th Street. The purchase price for the building is $3,350,000, and it appraised for $3,450,000. Stancog would like to finance 75% of this purchase, which is approximately $2.5 million. This would equate to $175,000 in principal and interest annually. We're estimating $90,000 in additional expenses for utilities, insurance, and other expenses that would arise. Next slide, please. Because Stancog is a public agency, we're eligible for what is referred to as tax-exempt financing, and Mr. Lee from Jones Hall is going to address that more specifically in a moment. But the tax-exempt financing will result in lower monthly payments and interest savings of over $200,000 over the life of the loan as compared to conventional lending rates. The funds used to make monthly mortgage payments are not transit funds, so no Transportation Development Act or Measure L funds will be used to finance this purchase. There will also be no federal transit monies which will be used for this purchase, so there will be no impact to transit service or local streets and roads money. And just want to emphasize that there will be no impact to any of those funding sources for the cities or the county. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Ron Lee at Jones Hall, and he is going to address the specific request and the finding of significant public benefit, unless there are any questions for me. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board.
Good morning.
Ron Lee with the law firm of Jones Hall, special counsel to Stancog in connection with the financing of their building acquisition. So the financing vehicle that Stancog has selected is tax-exempt financing. It's the same financial concept used by cities and counties, including Stanislaus County, in their own debt portfolios. The county itself, I'm sure, borrows on a tax-exempt basis, and because of that, it achieves lower interest rates. The lender of the money in a tax-exempt financing, of course, does not pay income tax, and therefore they are willing to offer a lower interest rate. In this case, the letter of intent from the bank indicates that the rate is approximately 1.19% lower than a conventional loan, which I think in a previous slide equates to something like $200,000 in debt service savings over the life of a 10-year loan. So that is roughly equivalent to maybe one monthly mortgage payment per year, basically free to Stancog by doing a tax-exempt financing. Now, under the JPA law, there are certain procedures they need to follow. Of course, they do need to they need the county, which is a local agency within which the property is situated, to hold a public hearing after we're done talking here. And then the county does need to make a finding of a significant public benefit, one of which can be that there is significant savings in interest cost. So that is the reason we are here today before you, to request that the county adopt the resolution which would make the finding and approve the financing for Stancog to allow them to achieve these savings. Shall I go ahead and take care of the staff recommendation as well?
Oh, I can do that. for you.
Okay. Well, that's all I have for you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, so today what's before us, if the board does not approve this, the interest rate is 1.19% higher. Stancog's board is responsible. They've already made the decision to move forward. They're the only body that can make the decision to reverse that, correct? I'm just making sure. So this is,
That is my understanding. They have made the decision to acquire the building, and their only other financing option at this point is a conventional loan. They will be paying approximately $200,000 more over the life of the loan if they were to do that, which is more than one mortgage payment per month, per year.
so there's a requirement from the bank also to get the tax exempt status interest rate, the preferred interest rate, correct?
I don't think that's the case. I think the bank could do this either way. Of course, if they're going to pay tax on the interest they receive, they're going to charge a higher rate, obviously. So this is a question of saving money for Stancog, saving public dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Did we have any written comments? I haven't seen it.
We have not.
All right. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Public comment on 6.1.
Do we have some written ones?
Chris, Ricky, first one up.
Hey, board. First time here. Good to see y'all. I'm concerned about this whole process and the purchase of this building. It was kind of run through in the dark and kind of rushed through. I didn't even hear about it until this week. My concern is that the voters didn't approve Measure L for Stancog to be buying real estate in downtown Modesto. Stancog claims that this money isn't coming from Measure L, but we have no proof or any paperwork to back up their claims of where the money is coming from. Taking a loan for this property just doesn't make sense. More debt for Stancog, it isn't what it's there for. We should be focused on roads. We should be focused on process, on projects, not process. And you know, it's across the street from the Gallo Center, which is like our main entertainment hub, and we're going to be dropping in another government building. It's just a bad choice, and it doesn't look at the future of what Modesto is going to be. I'm also very uncomfortable with this very short escrow period. I mean, I know that they made this real estate decision in closed session, but it's not giving Modesto the time to comment on this. Our Landmark Preservation Committee, this is a classic building. This is like mid-century modern architecture, and we're just going to make it into an office building. It's not the best use of this building, and it's just not in the best interest of Modesto. Just to finish up, it's just the wrong project in the wrong place at the wrong time. And thanks for letting me comment on it.
Thank you for your comment. Nick Bavaro.
Thank you very much, Chairman Condit, members of the Board of Supervisors, CEO Hayes, Council. My name is Nick Bavaro. I'm Modesto City Council member representing District 4, and I'm here today to urge you to vote no on item 6. And I would like to share some of my thoughts on this project. I'm somewhat disappointed, I'm a lot disappointed in Stancog's board policy for approving the purchase of 833 10th Street for $3.3 million in downtown Modesto. Coming up next, they say is going to be another $3.3 million for renovation. We all know what that means. It's, instead of looking at $6.6 million, we're probably realistically looking around $8 million of taxpayer money for Stancog to buy a building in downtown Modesto. Is this prudent use of taxpayer monies? I say not. StanCog is in the business of providing projects like roads. They're not in the business of buying buildings. In my opinion, government agencies like StanCog ought not to be buying assets like buildings. They should be using all their funds towards projects that they are charged with to complete. They should be renting or leasing property from the private sector, not purchasing property, and to use all their available funds for not buying a property, but using it to meet the needs of our community. So I say this is not good use of taxpayer money. And plus, the purchase of this property is going to take a very viable piece of property in downtown Modesto off the property tax rolls. This will now become tax exempt from property tax. I believe that this loan for $2.5 million should be voted no on today. This is, once the loan is made, it's dead money. It's unproductive money. This money is not going into projects. This money is going into buy a building and becomes a debt service. So we are not advancing the goals of StanCog on their projects and roads. We're using this money, which become a debt to our community. And so I urge you to vote no. So the question that comes up was StanCog is not going to use federal, state, or Measure L monies to fund the purchase of this property. My question then is, what is your funding source? Where is the money going to come from? What is the financial plan to service this debt? I'm sure that you have this information before you so you can make these kind of decisions. How are they going to service the debt? Where's the money going to come from? And so these are the kinds of questions I have. And by the way, the two agencies that StanCog could have come up to was Stanislaus County and the City of Modesto, and I understand why you chose Stanislaus County. With that, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the opportunity to express my district's concerns and urge you to vote no on this item. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nick. Chris Murphy.
Greetings, Board of Supervisors. Thanks for hosting this hearing today. I really appreciate it. This is kind of a key project. I'm a volunteer here in town for civic-related stuff. So for many years, we worked really hard supporting this building, as a matter of fact, long ago, and then trying to make sure downtown's vibrant, exciting, and interesting, a place where people want to be, some place where people want to live, and develop this place as the true economic hub of our region. So that's the key thing. And we also need to preserve the history and character of our downtown. So many cities have lost everything. During the 60s, we demolished so much stuff down these streets in the name of seismic retrofits that didn't need to be done. It was a convenient way to eliminate old buildings in our community. So now we're faced with very few historic buildings left. This 1965 mid-century modern building is amazing. The architect who did this also designed the water tower at UOP, which is another great piece of architecture. So we're talking amazing stuff. Another thing we've been trying to do is make sure this downtown is open 24/7. We need evenings, we need weekends. And what we should not be doing is taking retail property or entertainment potential property and turning it into office space that's 9 to 5 and closed on weekends. I don't know how many of you guys come down here on Saturday and Sunday, but downtown is closed. Most buildings are closed and not open. That's not the way we develop our community for entertainment, arts, music, and plus we're relying on travel and tourism. We're attracting people from all over. Visit Modesto is bringing people for the Almond Blossom Festival, Graffiti Summer, the Cruise Parade. All these things bring people to town. We need to make sure we have a town that's interesting and fun when they get here. And that's our goal. That's how we get tax revenue. That's how we get people talking about our town. So we change the narrative of this town that we're really a cool place to live. We all sit and moan about, why do people talk bad about Modesto? Well, because we don't execute when we have plans. We did the whole downtown master plan program. We got all the citizens together, did pictures, put sticky tabs all over the wall, came up with an illustration downtown. Everyone thought it was great. Showed retail on the front, professional on the second floor, live, work, third, fourth, fifth floor. And what did we do the next week? We put a drive-through Starbucks on one of the most congested intersections downtown. That's the problem we have that underlying this, is we're not following through on our plans, we're not designing the city we want, and we're not executing to make sure these things happen. So that puts us here, where we are today, with a mid-century classic building that has basically no protection. From my standpoint, I learned about it the day after it was in the newspaper. I read the news, I actually get the beat every day, read through it, look through the fine print, did not know about the public meeting. So April 17th was the first time the public had to comment on this. It was also the same meeting where they voted to do it. That's not public feedback. That's not inviting the community in. It might be the letter of the law, and I'm sure that, I'm not intimating that anyone did anything wrong. I'm sure it was by the books, but that's not the way to bring the community together. I was very fortunate to have a conversation with Javier and Rosa yesterday. We had a dynamite conversation, and we respect the way we went about, each of us went about this. And my concern is, when stuff happens too fast, there's probably a reason why. I'm not sure if public feedback was wanted on this project, but now the public's interested. And so a couple things that my concerns are, we're losing tax revenue, as has been pointed out by Nick. We don't have a 24/7 possibility. Fundamentally believe in property owners' rights. Jaime can sell that building to whomever he wants, and the person who buys it can do whatever they want. But what they can do and should do are two different things. And that's what I'm looking at, is what the right thing to do for this project is. I also noticed, based on my conversation yesterday with Javier and Rosa, the key thing is the architectural elements inside the building. The picture they showed today shows an entire ceiling on the second floor, all the way to the windows, for a boardroom meeting. Now, that's a real problem. So if this is going to happen, if it's a foregone conclusion, this is all done and baked in, I want some assurances, and I was assured yesterday that the interior character, the staircase and that mezzanine, so this public area in a government potentially owned building still has the character when people walk in across the street from the Gala Center, or on their way to something, or on their way to dining, that we maintain that. So if this goes through, I can't really stop it, but if it does go through, I've been made assurances by Rosa and Javier that that building open ceiling will be preserved. However, you're not in that job forever, and you're not in that job for neither of you guys. So how can we make sure that that happens? My recommendation, and also, as I understand, this has to go through CEQA. And I haven't heard any mention about that. I've got a couple of folks in architecture, historic preservation working on this right now. This has to have a CEQA before anything gets done to that building. And since there are really vague and not known directions planned on what the remodeling is going to be, that really needs to be addressed. So my recommendation is, if this thing goes through, I'd recommend that the board put some teeth in this loan and say, we'll give you the tax-free status and approve this financing if the architectural characteristics of the interior and exterior of this building are maintained. That's all the power we have as a member of the community, as a volunteer. And I just want to make sure we have a cool place where my kids want to keep growing up here, and their kids want to come back. And when my friends come to visit, they say, Modesto is an awesome place to be. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. Let's put some teeth in this loan so this building stays the same. And even if it's a government service, great. We can all enjoy it as the member of the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other member of the public? Emerson, you're already standing, but we'll, all right, there we go.
Yes, Milt Treeweiler again. I think this kind of just completes what I said before, this national survey that was taken last year of what people feared most in the United States. And the first thing, number one, was corrupt government. And we're seeing this in Stanislaus County. I don't know what the reason behind this is. I know that people do worship money, power, and pleasure, And maybe that is the background here. You're worshiping money, power, and pleasure. But I didn't have a lot of knowledge of this, but now I'm learning something about it. I wanted to see what was going to happen here. And what I see is, this is a bad idea. This should not be allowed, and you board members should vote against this. The citizens are getting upset with this. I mean, we've been down. We were down in COVID. We're not speaking out like we used to speak out. But we need, it's hard to get a lot of people to a meeting. But we've got to make these changes now before everything gets messed up. And it's getting worse and worse. We're not, you've got a responsibility to the citizens of Stanislaus County, not to someone who wants to make money on this or someone who wants to change something for irrational reasons. Leasing sounds very practical because then, again, all the reasons that were given. So please vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo.
Emerson Drake again. This is a public hearing, so we're allowed to ask questions. Usually I have to wait till Manny gets done playing with his phone.
Go ahead, Emerson.
I'm going to ask him where the money's going to come from.
Yeah.
Where the money, all the millions of dollars that we're going to spend, where does that money come from if it's not coming from the taxpayers?
Emerson, if you...
Mr. Drake.
I'm sorry,
if you could address your questions to the
Where
board here.
is the money
Hold on,
going to
just-
come from?
Hold on, just a moment. If you could address your questions to the board, and then once the public hearing is closed, we're going to invite staff back up to answer any questions that the public have raised. Thank you.
The problem with that is, because one question leads to another. If I ask a question, I get the answer I expect, I ask another question, and then I ask another question. It cuts people off when you do it that way. City Council started adopting it, and quite honestly, to use the term, it sucks. It's the nicest I could think of. So you're going to stick to that. That's okay, I just like to know that, because that sets the tone. A man once stood here and said, StanCog is a shadow government. They're people we don't vote for, that we've never voted to have them in that position. They arbitrarily decide to buy a building with what? It's got to be taxpayer funds, there's no other money. But you'll ask him that question later. He should have responded, he should have told us when he was up here. The idea that this is a done deal, that should offend all of you. And as far as worrying about them putting teeth in a loan, you can't put teeth in a loan. They'll say that, quite honestly, they'll say the heck with you. And they'll say, we'll just pay it. Why? Because it's not coming out of their pockets, it's coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. But no, that's okay. I went on the website yesterday because the conversation came up. And I tried to get some information about the meetings and looking for the minutes to the meetings. I have never seen a more convoluted website in my life. There's meeting after meeting of some van group. But when you try to find out who voted for this, you can't find it out. At least I wasn't able to. And I'm not one of the ones that can pick up the phone and call them and have them respond or meet me for coffee or whatever, and I'm not begrudging that. But this information should have been out ahead of time. To say that it was in the B, I learned a few years ago when Modesto ran Measure H that you don't have to put all the information in the B. If you just stick it on the lobby out front, that's good enough. Well, I got to tell you, people, I don't come down here every time, or I don't go to the library to look at an agenda to see what's going on. What you're allowing. Come on, you're the ultimate vote here, quite honestly. Not just about this little thing. To say this conversation today is about approving a loan for tax-free is just it's just filled with hubris. That we can sit back and have the audacity to say, it's not my fault. Did anybody here vote for that building? Yeah. Why? Not a single reason. Off the taxpayer rolls, I think we're going to end up paying more money through the Domo tax that you guys approved a while back. When you backdoor the people after saying, well, let the people decide, then when the people said no, you said, well, we'll throw our votes in for a yes. But that's politics, right? You have to wonder, going back to Jim DeMartini, that son of a gun told you what he was going to do and he did it. Wasn't always happy about it, but he told us and he did it. The idea that you can say, well, you know, they voted for it, it's okay to take that off the taxpayer roll. You know, it's like the courthouse downtown. At night, it's great for the lunch hour traffic for the restaurants, okay. But at night, it closes down and it's nothing. On the weekends, it's nothing. And we're gonna put another building down there that'll be nothing. You can't tell me that's right, and to say that you can't make or change that decision, you know that's not true. Can you do it with a wave of the wand? No, but you have to have a political motivation to stop it. And for these people, they make their living off taxpayer funds to thumb their noses at the taxpayer. That's you too. And now some of us just don't like seeing our money squandered. You know, when I looked at the numbers they threw up there, of course they politely ignored the fact about the building, the extension they want to build on the building. You know, this has been a deal of half-truths. And we're talking about millions of dollars. Taxpayer dollars. Does nobody care? You know, you got to start counting the zeros. Well, when you get so many, you got my attention. And it should have yours. And the idea that they can make a decision that you can't stop or you approved to go along to get along, because that's the Modesto, Stanislaus County way, is wrong. What did I say earlier? What did I say the last time I was here? What did I say months ago? We're looking to you for leadership. Leadership. And when we get hands in our pockets, oh, we can only affect the loan, even though I voted for it. People, when are you going to provide that leadership? I just want to know. Why do we let people we don't vote for make decisions for us? Why do we let them do it in closed meetings that you can't attend? Why do we let them not publish it? Why do we not let them force them to act like a government agency? Because that's what they are. But we don't do that. You know, I've seen some poor decisions come down over the years. Some that you can make an argument for or against. This one's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. You need to find a way to stop it. And by not having this meeting today, I would have preferred that, because they don't want that. They don't want the public indignation to build up. Because otherwise it's pitchfork time. People will get tired of you wasting our money. Very tired. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. I just want to make sure we're clarifying what's going on here. The decision to purchase the building, from what I understand, has already been made by the StanCog Policy Board, that this board cannot stop the project. I just want to make sure that that's true before I go on. Okay. If the decision to purchase the building has already been made, then I'm all in favor at this point. Let us reduce the cost to the public as much as possible by turning the loan into a tax-free loan, which will save the public money over the term of the loan. And the debate on whether or not the project is a good idea, that was already made at the StanCog Policy Board meeting. So I understand all of the comments that have been made by various individuals who are concerned about the project, but if the decision has already been made, let's make the loan tax exempt so at least it will save the public some money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Any other members of the public?
McMurtry here. Looks like no matter what I say, I'm going to ruffle some feathers, so this is kind of a big day for me. I've heard rhetoric, national level, state level. This is really interesting. I just have a little monkey wrench to throw in, and I'm sort of putting one of the supervisors under the bus on this too. But the reason I'm involved in government at all is because I took an interest in the transit agency. Transit agency, Stan RTA, operates under StanCog. And there's an interesting comment that Supervisor Withrow, in his capacity as a director of the Stan RTA board, that why don't we look for a building that can accommodate both, because Stan RTA is also leasing, and there is, we should make some effort to save money in the long term. So this is a monkey wrench. I don't think this falls on either side. I just want us to have a little bit more of the picture. We should be looking at Stan RTA's involvement in all this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Just for clarification, Stan RTA is a separate organization. It's not under, it's funded, the funding comes through StanCog, but it's a separate agency with a separate board.
Okay. We'll be right around this man.
Any other members of the public? All right, I'm going to close public hearing. Invite StanCog staff to answer any questions that may have been asked.
Good morning. Again, thank you for the opportunity to address some of the comments that were made as part of the public hearing. I'm going to address some of the comments that are non-financial in nature, and then the Executive Director, Ms. Park, is going to address those that are primarily financial. There were a variety of comments that were made regarding the classic building and the structure and style of architecture that were made, and preserving that, and a specific comment pertaining to the rendering of the dais that was presented. The rendering of the dais, I'll speak to that first, was a portion of the first floor. It does not encompass the entirety of the first floor. It is difficult to see from the rendering, but again, the plan does not close off the entire second floor. The plans that have been presented or preliminarily prepared to get cost estimates for improvements were based on a best case scenario for build out. That doesn't mean that that's necessarily what's going to occur. That decision still needs to be presented to the StanCog Policy Board and approved by the StanCog Policy Board at a future date and time. And at that point, prior to going into any of those improvements, is when all of the CEQA analysis will occur. There's also some comments about the property being vacant. We do recognize that that is a concern across the state, particularly in vibrant downtown cores. By our best estimate, the building has been vacant for quite some time. Driving in this morning, there was a homeless individual camped at the front door. By having the building occupied during normal business hours, we would minimize that kind of traffic and help improve the appearance of those visitors to the city upon entering, and also those who are be coming into the city using the transit center, as that is one of the first items that they will see upon entering the city of Modesto. I'll allow the Executive Director to elaborate on further on downtown being a vibrant area, particularly the manner in which StanCog brings visitors in to Stanislaus County. Most recent example was when we hosted the CTC in January.
Thank you, Monica. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Board of Supervisors. I wanted to just address, the first thing that I want to address, the Stanislaus Council of Governments is a metropolitan planning organization formed by Congress in the 60s. So StanCog formed a Joint Powers Authority in 1971, and there's 18 agencies similar to ours across the state of California. So when Monica mentioned that we bring transportation funding to our community to improve our infrastructure, our bridges, our interchanges, signalizations, that's what StanCog focuses, but it also focuses on transit, on bike and pedestrian projects, and also on rail. ACE is another item that this board has taken a lot of lead into ensuring that ACE comes to our community. The transit center was improved not a few years back, but it was with funding at the board that the 16-member board decided to make those improvements for that revitalization to the downtown to make those improvements. StanCog, as the 18 members, one of the 18 metropolitan organizations, does bring legislators, other transportation funding partners to our region here to see how our community is when we're going after federal dollars on projects throughout the region, not just Modesto, but the entire region. In January, many of you may remember, we hosted, and I say Stancock hosted, although we didn't have a place to bring them, but with our partners, with the county and the city, we asked if we could borrow this room so the California Transportation Commission could hold their meeting here. There were some meetings that the county and the city already had, but they were flexible enough to move the meetings. So the California Transportation Commission could host their 3-day meeting here, bringing over 300 people coming here following transportation and funding opportunities for their regions throughout the state. You had people from San Diego, from Northern California, Bay Area, everywhere were here hosting for this money. And also, they stayed here. They stayed in our hotels, and they dined in our community. How Stancock, one of the questions was, how is Stancock, if we're not using Measure L or any other funding to operate our agency, because we were formed by Congress, federal government provides funding to the 18 MPOs to operate. That is how we pay our leases, that's how we keep our lights on, that's how we pay our staff to work in our agency, and that is the same funding is that we will use to purchase this building and to continue making the payments on the building.
If I may, just one more comment. There were some comments regarding the members of the Stancock Board not being elected officials. The Stancock Board is made up of 16 elected officials. All 5 members of the Board of Supervisors do sit on the Stancock Policy Board, as do 3 members from the City of Modesto City Council, and then 1 representative from each of the other cities within Stanislaus County. And those city councils determine who those representatives are. So again, the Policy Board is 16 elected officials. 5 of them are here before you as part of this Board of Supervisors. So again, the questions about preserving the character, any future plans, those will be presented to the Policy Board, and 5 of those 16 members are here hearing your comments. The last thing I wanted to mention is just, again, bring it back, and thank you, Mr. Morrow, for the clarification. The question before the Board of Supervisors today is whether or not we can move forward with this tax-exempt financing, and whether or not that would allow us to save the $200,000 in interest payments over the course of the loan. The savings are in essence borne by the federal government because it becomes exempt from federal income tax, but it does save our taxpayers here and help preserve our dollars here by lowering what we have to pay in terms of operating expenses.
Any board members have questions of staff?
I'm just going to just really quick, kind of answer to some of the things you just said, Monica and Rosa. So with regard to the board being made up of elected officials, that's for sure. The board is 16 elected officials, but we're talking about a project in the city of Modesto that is being voted on by people that don't represent the city of Modesto. And 2 of the 3 on that board that represent the city of Modesto voted against it. I just want to make sure that's clear right off the bat. And then the other item is that with regard to the funds come from the federal and state government, and Stancock gets its percentage off the top. It's just as Measure L funds, right? We get our percentage for administration. So in essence, to say that these funds aren't going towards this is really not true, because the overall work program, our budget, gets its funding from federal and state and Measure L funds, of which we take a percentage for overhead. Overhead being our costs for rent, our staffing, and by these funds going towards this building, it takes away from it going towards staffing and planning and things like that we could use it for.
Thank you for your question. The funding that we receive, before Measure L, Stancock still existed, still had to pay rent. Those funds are coming from our federal government to operate. The 1% that Supervisor Withrow is addressing, Stancock does get a 1% for the Measure L. However, that 1% goes to, we have our procedures to do audits for all the member agencies that receive Measure L. So there's 11 audits that StanCog is required to do. We have a database that we have to maintain. So that the 1% that is received for StanCog for administrative purposes actually goes back into investing for these audits and the database to keep the Measure L for the public. We have a website for the public to go out and see. It's StanislausMeasureL.com. And so that is a website that we have for the Measure L. And yes, it pays partially for some of the staff, but it's more for the finance as they're operating for that.
Could you just clarify the loan amount that is being considered?
So StanCog is contemplating, and it's run the numbers based on 75% of the purchase price being financed, which is about $2,512,000.
Okay, and then that's a loan that's being requested today from the county, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and just for complete transparency, I am a member of StanCog. I was not at the meeting that evening when this vote took place. I had another obligation. I do apologize for my absence. Had I been there, though, I would have voted against this project. The reason being is StanCog is good at work as you guys do. You do exceptional work. We appreciate Rosa and her staff and Monica, of course. But my priority, and I just was thankful enough to be reelected, is the condition and quality of our roads. You guys are the bank of our road tax dollars, but unfortunately we cannot use that Measure L funding for staff to increase our staff, to overlay or to chip seal or to repave our roads. That is our responsibility. We have a vacancy shortage within our county, within our roads crew specifically. That's something that I am prioritizing and trying to see that we are best serving our taxpayers who drive our roads daily. None of us are blind to the conditions of our roads. In a lot of areas, they're atrocious. I would much rather see this $2.5 million go to beefing up our roads crew, for instance. So that is part of my opposition to this. Again, StanCog is a great organization. I'm proud to sit on the board. You guys do incredible work. But I just can't support this today simply on that matter, that I would rather see this loan or no loan, whatever amount, I would rather see this $2.5 million go towards a road crew so that we could have better conditions in our roads and better services for our residents throughout Stanislaus County.
If I may, just for clarifying, when we're discussing how this 2.5 will be paid, as I mentioned, the federal government, so we could operate and provide the allocation of funding for the region, that this last year we about $67 million came through the COG, where obligated projects were through the region were obligated for bridges, signalizations and things like that, but we still need to have a home to stay and rent. So the 2.5 million we cannot give back to the cities. That is for the operating of StanCog.
Any other questions of staff?
I just want to clarify. You cannot, that $2.5 million, regardless of that, your money that comes through the COG cannot be given to road crews, cannot be given to chip seal. The transit agency, TDA, Transit Development Act, and STP, right? There's so many acronyms. Those go to transit, pass through money, comes, we allocate it through. And none of that is going to pay for this building. The Measure L money, which you collect, that comes through, you disperse the 65% out for road maintenance and bike ped, and
traffic signalization.
Traffic. So there's none of that money that's available. The county and the cities receive their gas tax money directly. They don't come through the COG.
Correct.
So under no condition are we stopping pavement management or transit by buying this building. I'm not, again, I'm just trying to be clear with the public because I heard some comments. What it'll affect is the amount of people you hire to do your overall work plan, to do your regional transportation planning, things of that nature.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Supervisor Kane.
So there is an impact. There's no doubt there's an impact because the cost has to come. We built this building and we've got, the parking lots around here. We've got the district attorney building and the clerk recorder's building and all these buildings, the Gallows Center block that we built using money that had an impact on our budget. But some of those might have come at the cost of another project, but that's not, yours is federal and state money to do what you're required to do as a COG, as an MPO.
That is very correct, yes.
There's no county liability with this loan, right?
That is correct, and I'll ask Mr. Lee to address that comment specifically.
That is 100% correct. There is no county liability here. The county does not sign any of the loan paperwork.
And this decision was already made by the policy board, correct? StanCog policy board. I know the answer. I was there. This today is just to vote to okay the loan and to save the JPA $200,000.
It's really the question of whether or not you want the JPA to save $200,000. Again, the cost of that $200,000 is borne by the federal government. The lender will not pay about $200,000 in income tax to the federal government. That savings is passed along to StanCog.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? Where is today, where does it stand today? And Craig, you're probably as capable. So we have a $100,000 non-refundable deposit if the loan doesn't go through at this point, right? Plus some, 110,000. And that's all we would lose right now today if the StanCog board decided not to go forward. Is that fair? I know we've got some.
Come on up to the mic, please.
And this is really for the public's edification, because at the StanCog board in May, I invite you all to show up then. We still are trying to get a loan. There's other things that go along with this, but I'm sorry, Craig, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, still. My name is Craig Lewis. I'm the real estate broker for StanCog in the acquisition of this building. And there is a deposit of $110,000 that is up, but the inspections that have been done on the building, the appraisal that's been on the building, and Jones Hall will be an obligation of the StanCog organization in doing that. And the additional cost would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000+ beyond the $110,000.
And that gives everyone in the public an idea if at the next meeting in May, I can't even tell you what the date is. I probably could find it quickly, but 15th? May 15th. So.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any more questions. I just want to comment. Let's just go ahead and comment and get this.
Absolutely.
So this is so frustrating for me that we've got to this point. The fact that we even have this deposit down, I personally have been fighting since this conversation began in closed session months ago about entering into escrow and putting a deposit down and potentially losing the deposit. At this point, that'd be the cheapest money we'd spend on this thing. If we lose $100,000, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best thing that could happen to us compared to the $7 million we're going to be into this when this is all said and done. I have total respect for, and love all you guys that are a part of this thing, and so that's why this is so hard for me. But I couldn't be more adamantly against this project. Now, I understand, I mean, just to get this stuff out there, that the public didn't get to hear because we had a public hearing for which there was no public really there to hear this at the time. So this is the goodest place as any to kind of throw some of this out there. We have a building that 6 years ago sold for $1.4 million. I have a client that sold that building 6 years ago for $1.4 million. 6 years later, here we are spending almost $3.4 million for this building. I just don't see that appreciation's happened over. I know they've done some improvements to the building, but those facts are right. $1.4 million is what it sold for in 2018, and so so there's that, to start with that. And then we talk about our improvements that we're going to have to do here on this building. We're saying 3.3, but that's in today's dollars. We hope 2 years from now that it'll still be 3.3. We all know that that won't be the case. And so that makes no sense for us to do that. And then just the cost involved in buying an older building and the things that come up with an older building as we deal with here in the county with all of our older buildings that we own, as we have constant, deferred maintenance that we are continually having to spend money on as compared to just running a structure. So that being said, with regard to the viability, economic sense of purchasing this building, I don't see no, and I do have a little experience in this. I do this. I own a commercial building a few blocks from this. I have a lot of clients that we deal with this all the time. So it's not like I'm clueless on this. Though I'm clueless on a lot of things, but I am not clueless on this. So now let's go to what we're asked to do here, because really that has nothing to do with what we're asked to do here today, right? And what we're asked to do here is to agree that because the vote has already happened on Stancog, I voted against it, I lost that, and so what we're asked to do here now is just to rubber stamp that this is for the public benefit, and what we're being told here, and so in my mind, this is another opportunity for me to stop this project, to make it more expensive and less viable than it already is, really, right? I mean, this is not a viable project as it is. So then we say, we're going to cost us an additional couple $100,000 in interest if we don't agree with this, because Stancog will go forward with this. I'm hoping Stancog won't go forward with it if we stop this thing. But because that just makes it more expensive and more of a project that we shouldn't be doing. So, but what we're asked here today then is just to say, does this qualify as for the public benefit, right? To get this special interest rate. And that's the other thing, we're hanging this, and that's why I feel I don't conflict out on this. That's what this is all about, not the loan, the bank that I'm involved in. Is we should have gone to multiple banks, but we didn't. We went to one bank. And anybody would look for several banks to try to provide a offer to finance something. We only went to one. So we're here back to this, is there a public benefit here? And I would argue that the intent of the law for the public benefit, to qualify for these interest rates, is if the project is for the public benefit, not to hang our hat on, well, the interest rate is lower, so that's where the public benefit comes. That is asinine, that concept, to think that is where the public benefit comes. We're buying a building that we shouldn't be buying, that really the public won't benefit from. Our staff will, and the electeds who get to go there will, and the public every now and then when they show up. But for the most part, we can't hang our hat that this is for the public benefit because the interest rate is lower. That makes no sense at all to me. What the intent of this law was that the money was being spent on a project that was for the public benefit, not that the interest rate that we're going to finance that project is for the public benefit. It makes no sense. It doesn't pass mustard. And the last thing is, it's just a terrible look for all of us. And we can argue all over the place as far as where the funds come, and as Vito says, it's correct that these funds aren't taking money away from roads, with the exception of maybe the overhead and stuff that we use. But it is taking money away from staff and planning and stuff that we could do. And so I get that. But just tell the average Joe on the street that sees that building, sees us plow $7 million into it at a minimum, and then he still is out in the public. This is just the look. It's not the reality of it. Like Vito, you're right, of course, but the look is so awful for the public to see that. We are not to be in these buildings. Our job is not to be in these beautiful spots and at the taxpayer's expense. So anyway, for those reasons, these are hard because we all love each other and it's hard, but I just cannot support this in any way, and would hope that I don't think this passes as far as it being of the public benefit. And for that, I will deny this, and I hope that then that helps. I will vote against this, and I will hope that that this would actually help stop the project, so.
Any other comments?
So my comment is just going to be reiterating, and I think that it's Stan Cog's decision, the 16 members, to determine what and how they're going to fund this if they can. And I don't think it's a done deal at this point. For us to pile on and make it $200,000 more expensive, again, I doesn't think it fits the public good, and we can argue about, because $7 million is a lot of money, but adding another $200,000 in interest on it, I don't think is serving a purpose. So I'm going to support this. Again, that's our job here as the board today, as I see it anyways, and we can just disagree on it. And then we go back to the Stan Cog board, and we have this conversation all over again if that's the will of the Stan Cog board, of which we make up 5/16 of it.
All right. Well, I voted for the measure at the Stan Cog Policy Board, and I think for once, I think we're setting up for the future growth of Stan Cog. Obviously, location is a big part. It's close to it's in downtown, close to the transportation hub. There's no Measure L funds being used, no roads money being used, and there's no county liability according to this loan. And I'll be supporting it also. I think it's just setting up for the future growth of Stanislaus County.
I do want to say one thing that we didn't mention, I don't think we mentioned, but $40,000 of the total $7 million budget of Stan Cog is paid for by the county and the 9 jurisdictions. So they fund 40,000 of the 7 million. So there is some local money that could be used to pay debt, the 40,000. I mean, conceivably. So I don't ever want to not acknowledge that money. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to pass the staff recommendations, the 2 that are up there on the board.
I second. I have a roll call.
It requires 3 to pass, right?
It requires 3 to pass.
Yep. Okay.
District 2 Supervisor Chiesa?
Aye.
District 3 Supervisor Withrow?
No.
District 4 Supervisor is abstaining. District 5 Supervisor Condit?
Nay.
And Vice Chairman Beck Condit?
Aye.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Yep. Motion fails.
Motion fails. 2-2.
So the motion did fail.
That's correct. With the 2-2, it did not obtain a majority.
John, well done, my sir. All right. All right, so next we have correspondence. Please accept all correspondence items and then acknowledge and accept. Perfect. All right, next is legislative fiscal and management report. We have Gavin Klein from Congressman Duarte's office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, county staff, community. Thank you, Gavin Klein with Congressman Duarte's office. Just want to give you all a quick update. Congressman Duarte is continuing to stand up for our nation's veterans. Congressman Duarte and a bipartisan group of House colleagues recently introduced H.R. 7816, the Clear Communications for Veterans Claims Act. And our office recently hosted a roundtable with veteran stakeholders from across the valley, all the way from within our 5 counties in our district. Veterans and their families often struggle with the complexity of correspondence, often called notice letters from the VA, regarding benefit decisions, including those related to education, healthcare, and other services. The complexity of these correspondence can be confusing, which can be frustrating for our veterans and increase stress levels. What the Clear Communications for Veteran Claims Act does is it requires a secretary to enter into an agreement with a federally funded Research Development Center, FFRDC, to assess notice letters within 30 days of the Act's enactment. And it requires a secretary within 90 days of receiving the assessment to submit the recommendations to the FFRDC to the committees on Veterans Affairs in the Senate, and the House to implement these recommendations. Another bill that our office is extremely proud to announce is the Confidence and Clear Water Permits Act, which is Congressman Duarte's first bill to pass through the House. And this is H.R. 7013, and it was part of Chairman Rausers of North Carolina's bill, H.R. 7023. And its passage puts us one step closer to clean water by guaranteeing the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. The NPDES permits now provide clear and reliable listing regulations, making them easily accessible and user-friendly for permit holders. Currently, the EPA's NPDES permit riders often include language in the permits that provide loopholes for groups to sue and block permits needed for critical energy and other infrastructure improvements. Congressman Duarte's provisions closes those loopholes and limits opportunities for unwanted lawsuits, codifying previously long-standing practice of the EPA to shield permit holders from liability as they've acted in good faith according to the terms of their permit. This type of regulatory certainty and legal protection from permit holders is necessary for improving our valley's water infrastructure. And then our last one I wanted to touch on is Congressman Duarte is a proud sponsor of the Careers Act. What this bill does, it allows the Secretary of Agriculture to allocate funds within the Rural Innovation Stronger Economy, the RISE grant program, to support pathway programs, industry or sector partnerships, and key industry sectors, including public utilities, telecommunication, broadband, water, disposal, electrical supply services, conservation practices, management, healthcare, childcare, manufacturing, agribusiness, and many others. And the grants are awarded competitively with a minimum of $500,000 and a maximum grant amount of $2 million to eligible entities. The Secretary then has the flexibility to add additional sectors if a local workforce board deems that sector to be in high demand, and it requires the grant awardees to provide a report to the Secretary on activities funded within the grant, including performance measures during the project period. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. And we have Jacob from Senator Maria Alvarado Gill's office. Thanks for assisting those folks, Jacob. Appreciate it.
Of course. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. So up in Sacramento, I have a few updates on some of our bills that are in committee. So SB 1028, this is our ABC licenses bill. This bill would allow the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control to issue up to 10 additional on-sale general licenses to restaurants in a county following any year which the county reaches its limit. That bill is currently in Senate Appropriations. And then SB 1088, that relates to funding for water infrastructure. That bill is currently in the Senate Governmental Organization Committee. And then SB 1222, this bill relates to higher education in rural areas. It would require the LAO, Legislative Analyst's Office, to conduct a study and prepare a report evaluating the provision of college services and opportunities to residents in underserved counties. For example, Mariposa, Amador, Alpine, which are in the Senator's district, that are not fully included within a community college district. And that bill is currently in Senate Education. SB 1240, this relates to the PERS annexation. This bill would allow the successor agency and consolidation of the El Dorado Fire Protection District. That is in Senate Labor. And then SB 1261, that is our allocation of funds for fairs. This bill would adjust the percentage of Department of Food and Agriculture budget dedicated to the Fairs and Expedition Fund from 3/4 of 1% to an unspecified percentage. This bill would go towards fairs in the state of California, often many of which serve as evacuation centers in the events of fire and natural disasters. And that bill is currently in Senate Revenue and Taxation. And that concludes my report. If anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
No questions? Thank you so much. All right, CEO Hayes.
Just a couple items we want to mention. There's been a lot of commentary around the governor and the legislature having an early action agreement on budget deficit. And we have been working with our departments to determine if any of that early action agreement has impacts at the local level. One of the largest items is related to our CalWorks single allocation at the state. It's pretty complicated, but we think we've unwound this to determine that we're hoping there would be no negative impact here in Stanislaus County related to what you're seeing on that particular matter. Statewide, that's $336 million, so it was a big item. But we do think it's largely just the timing of funding that is occurring and how it's being funded. But we'll get back to you if we find out otherwise. We did identify that there is a specific impact related to the probation department that as some of the funding related to CCP would be reduced through these actions, and it's looking at about $150,000 here at the local level. But again, we're continuing to try to unwind what is in this agreement. The most notable piece is the Department of Financing sending a letter to the Joint Legislative Budget Committee of their intent, the governor's office intent to start to begin suspending future expenditures of various one-time appropriations. Everyone is asking for what is the list of projects that are theoretically going to be suspended, even in the current fiscal year. We have concerns because a lot of the items that come before you have state funding. A lot of them are one-time appropriations from the state of California, and as of today, we can't tell you definitively if any of those could potentially be impacted. So that's a concern for us as well as all other counties in the state, and we'll let you know as we learn more. And the last thing is to just note that just yesterday, Governor Gavin Newsom and First Partner Jennifer Seibel Newsom had celebrated Earth Day here in Stanislaus County at the Dos Rios Ranch Park, which is the new state park here that will be opening shortly. I'm not sure if anybody was able to attend, but we did appreciate their focus and bringing attention to that new resource here in Stanislaus County. That concludes my report.
Yeah, actually, I was on attendance yesterday, being that the new state park is in my district. It was a beautiful day to celebrate Earth Day. I want to extend a thank you to the governor, Gavin Newsom, as well as the First Partner for being there on hand. And this is the first new state park to be dedicated since 2009, and it's just going to be a great amenity for the public to enjoy. So again, thank you to the governor and the First Partner. It was a beautiful Earth Day.
Also, Supervisor James Conant and I got to represent Stanislaus County, and members of the staff, Tina Rocha, I know Damian Martinez was there. I know Vito Crieza was trying to make it there. It was at CSAC. Learned a lot, always a good opportunity to network, best practices, and learn from what things are working or not working in other counties. I was privileged to chair the Government Financial and Accountability Committee, and then also a panel on 2 upcoming legislative bills. But all in all, a very worthwhile time spent in Sacramento. All right, with that, also this week, as I alluded to earlier, the State of the County Address, I'll have the privilege of conducting the State of the County Address. It will be this Thursday, April 25th, 5:30 p.m. at the Stanislaus County Modesto Library, 1500 I Street, Modesto, California. Please, if you have the time, we would appreciate your attendance. And with that,
yes, we have closed session today. We have a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1. We have one case, Beard et al. Versus County of Stanislaus et al. That's in the U.S. District Court, Eastern District, and the case number is 121 CV 00841. And with that, it'd be appropriate for public comment before we go in.
any public comment? Seeing none, meeting adjourned to closed session. Deputy Peter Rodriguez, appreciate you watching over us. Thank you, everybody that was in attendance.